One. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Fantasy Table brought to you by the Blue Stable. I am your host, Luke Furcamp, and football is back. Finally, after all this talking, football is back. It'll be tonight whenever you're watching it. We're recording on Wednesday, but it'll be tonight on Thursday. I'm so pumped. Theo, how are you feeling?
Bills versus Rams, that first game. I mean, there's so many fantasy relevant players in that game alone. So just kick off the fantasy year with that game. It's going to be a ton of fun. Like if you're in multiple leagues, there's a very good chance that one of your players is playing that night or tonight.
Yeah, I gotta say, you got like just on the Rams alone, you got Matthew Stafford, Cam Akers, potentially Daryl Henderson if you're feeling risky. Cooper Cup, Allen Robinson, yeah, and then the Bills, gosh, Josh Allen, the running backs, Diggs, McKenzie, Knox. Yeah, it's just going to be a shootout in my opinion, but I hope it's a shootout anyway because I mean I love watching offenses go at it in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we are going to talk about week 1 tips and tricks and some matchups that we love and hate of the week. But first of all, we're going to go through the news and notes from this past week. The first one, I just had to add this in here because I thought it was hilarious. But there's a report that Kenny Galladay is running with the stiffness of a mannequin. Man, what was that? Whatever 2, 3 years ago, whenever Kenny Galladay was the hottest wide receiver on the market, commanded all that money, and he hasn't done anything since for the Giants.
Yeah, that just the injuries have definitely caught up to him, and Giants are just gonna have to eat that contract until it ends, and who knows where he goes from there. Maybe he rebounds with another team, but with that contract signed to the Giants, there's no way that he's going to get traded, at least.
Yeah, no, he's going to have to be cut if he's going to another team, I feel like. But I mean, just kind of like his play style kind of invites injury because
Mm-hmm.
he's very physical. But yeah, it's not looking good for him right now. I yeah, I don't see him drafted at all, which is probably a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Robinson, the swelling in his knee has went down to where he is not on crutches anymore, which is awesome. Great news for him. He is very possible for a week 5 return. So, Gibbs season, we got 4 weeks to prove it. I hope he does, but also really hoping that Brian Robinson fully recovers and can do something this year because that'd be
And
a great story.
I know I was messaging in the chat about how letting you enjoy these next 4 weeks before he comes back.
Yeah,
Just
before I cry
anything.
again, I mean, give me something. And then a couple of signings that are late last minute, but OJ Howard has officially signed with the Texans, and the Eagles claim Trey Sermon. The OJ Howard one intrigues me because they just have not really any good pass catchers there outside of Brandon Cooks. I do like Nico Collins a bit, but OJ Howard could potentially be something if they pass the ball a decent amount, but I don't know how likely that's going to be.
Yeah, I was excited for Brevin Jordan. He was my deep sleeper at tight end this year, especially with Davis Mills. I felt like Mills had the chance to kind of start getting the NFL rhythm and distributing his targets equally amongst his receivers of all kinds, whether it's running backs, wide receiver, tight end, you name it. But now with OJ Howard, that really limits Jordan's ability to kind of skyrocket. And I guess you're gonna have to see how it plays out throughout the season, or it's just a two tight end set, which then basically nulls the whole Texans tight end room in fantasy relevance.
Yeah, I'm not really looking to get players from that offense outside of like Brandon Cooks and maybe Damian Pierce, if his stock is in the right place. Um, Moving on though, Stafford's injury could be an issue all season. This is worrying to me. That's mainly why I'm drafting Justin Jefferson over Cooper Cup is because of this injury to Matthew Stafford. Who knows what could happen? I mean, if this is going to be an issue for him, does that hurt like Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson? I mean, if they have to go to someone else outside of Matthew Stafford, I feel like it does.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, Stafford's always been that guy to play through it. So when they say that Stafford's going to play through another season with an injury, I mean, I know like it's worrying. It should be worrying, but given his past, I wouldn't put too much worry into it. Yes, I would drop Cup below Jefferson. That makes sense because of that. But is it enough worry to drop Cup like below the top 10 or something because you think that he's going to be missing games? No, I don't think he's going to be missing games. I do think that if it does get a little bit worse, they're going to kind of tone it down on the volume of passing, whether it's in the middle of the season or whenever it gets aggravated, really.
Yeah, for sure. I do agree with that. That Stafford, he's going to play through whatever he can. Like, I mean, we've seen that viral video that went for some reason went viral again last year of whenever he was on the Lions and he hurt like he broke his collarbone but still like completed the game winning touchdown. Just absolute beast. Like there's no other words about it.
It doesn't matter
Um,
about shoulder injury.
right. Mitch Trubisky is officially named the Steelers quarterback one. Um, I mean, I've been on the train of don't fade Deontay Johnson because I mean he was with Big Ben last year and Big Ben was terrible. So I I still feel like Mitch can be an upgrade over him.
Yeah, if you throw the ball, you throw it to a wide receiver, you get points. Doesn't matter the names to it,
Right.
really. I mean, of course, it matters if you're ranking them, like saying like which one's gonna be better and the quality of quarterback, but volume is king in fantasy. And if you have Mitch Trubisky going 500 attempts, 600 attempts this year, Deontay Johnson is gonna be that guy majority of the time.
Yeah, he's going to get a huge chunk of those. Dawson Knox has reached an extension with the Bills. Good for him. Congratulations. Get that money. Um,
Very minimal fantasy, but I mean,
yeah, I gotta say
I
there's
guess that
something
means
nice,
he's,
but
I guess dynasty. Yeah, he
yeah,
stays there
it's
longer,
more
but
for
I guess
dynasty than anything. But I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't re-sign him. Though I don't know. They said that he's going to get like top five tight end money, which is crazy to me. But hey, if they like him, they like him. Like it seems like him and Josh Allen are pretty good friends.
not on my team, so I'm fine.
Yeah. Uh, Joe Flacco is officially starting for the Jets. They said Zach Wilson is getting there. He's not going on the pup because they do want him to be practicing, but he's going to be out for a few weeks. So Joe Flacco revenge game against the Ravens this week. Um,
Yeah, I saw Salah say something about week 4 with Zach Wilson.
yeah, I've been
So I
seeing
mean,
that too. So.
pup takes you out for 4 weeks, right? So that's
Right.
back at week 5. So that makes sense to why they avoided putting him on pup, but till week 4 for him to come back. I mean, that's not a good look for any offensive player on the Jets unless Joe Flacco goes on some miraculous playoff run like he did, just like
I gotta say, I'm not going
skill
to lie.
wise.
I kind of like him more for the wide receivers. Um,
Really?
because I mean, there was a quote from Garrett Wilson where he's like, Joe Flacco throws a more wide receiver friendly ball or something like that. So I think Flacco will be more accurate at least. He might throw, I don't know, like he's not the same talent in his point at this point of his career than what Zach Wilson is, but I still think he can throw an accurate ball. I still think he can throw a decent amount of game. Um, Elijah Moore showed us last year that he could do it with about any quarterback. He did with
Oh
what
yeah.
Mike White, Josh Johnson, all those guys. So I still think he can produce.
I'll counter the one thing you said. I do agree that, or whatever Garrett Wilson said, I'll believe him that Joe Flacco throws a more wide receiver friendly ball, but Zach Wilson throws a more fantasy football friendly ball.
Yeah, that is
That's
true. That is true. I will
and
agree.
that's why I like Zach Wilson. But and actually getting the production going and the rhythm, yeah, Joe Flacco is the guy. But I mean, the deep passes are gonna be gone, and that Hopefully
Oh
they can
yeah,
get some yak going.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully Elijah Moore gets a lot of open space. So I'm hoping. Lamar Jackson had an interview after practice on Wednesday saying that he hopes to see Dobbins in a couple weeks. I know I mentioned this last week, but I'm kind of concerned about J.K. Dobbins here at the beginning of the season. It seems like it's trending that he's going to be out week 1. So that's the main reason why I said something about Kenyon Drake. Drake was signed for a reason. To me, he's more of going to be feeling like Gus Edwards as that like second back in the system. But I still think that he can produce because I mean his only competition is Mike Davis, and Mike Davis was just not good last year. This is a very run happy team. I feel like Drake could get some touches. I'm not saying to start him because I don't know what to
Please
expect out of
don't.
this. Yeah, I don't know what to expect out of this backfield. I want to wait for week 1. I want to wait to see if Dobbins is officially out, but it sounds like he is going to be out this week.
Yeah, that's my advice. Um, don't start Ravens running backs unless you're truly desperate. I know it sucks that the Jets is such a good matchup week 1 for the Ravens running backs, but with Kenyon Drake and Mike Davis, I mean, we saw them play like snaps throughout the whole season last year. I mean, not starting snaps, but we saw them play against defenses and we saw how non-productive they were. And seeing them basically in that same role together in Baltimore, it's not really a dynamic I'm willing to invest in my starting lineup this week.
Yeah, no, I gotta say the only thing that gives me hope for them guys is like we saw Devonta Freeman sign off the streets to the Ravens last year after Gus and Dobbins got injuries, and Freeman produced. I mean, he was a very solid like flex running back for you last year. Whenever he was starting for the Ravens, I know it was an absolute mess last year, and it could be an absolute mess again this year until Dobbins gets back. But yeah, I'm definitely trying to stay away week 1. But moving on, we're going to talk about our week 1 tips and tricks. To me, the biggest one, pick up some high valuable backups that could be like your top week 2 waiver pickups. Like, I mean, just think if you had Elijah Mitchell last year, like you didn't have to spend like your waiver claim or you didn't have to spend all your fab. You already had him on the roster. Like, if you could get that guy, you're automatically putting yourself at a better advantage. Like if you're in a 1 quarterback league, to me, just look at your roster, see what bench players you don't really need on your roster. Like to me, backup quarterback, I don't want on my roster week 1. Like give me these backups, give me these guys that can potentially skyrocket after week 1 and get a lot more value.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
just all about the quantity of playing your chances. I mean, you're more likely to win the lottery with 2 lottery tickets than 1 lottery ticket. It's that simple, really. I guess. I mean, some other candidates, I mean, I know you wrote some down, but I really like Zach Moss for this tonight's game to pick up in case Singletary or Cook goes down. But you would be risking your waiver wire spot. You'll probably get sent back to the bottom of the league because no one else is going to be doing waiver wires. But if Zach Moss is a good one, I think, and pick him up, stash him in the bottom of your roster, and if one of the running backs get hurt, you got a solid player. But if not, you're back at number 12 or number 10 in your fantasy football waiver wire list, and it gets reset the next week. So not that big of a deal for me.
I gotta say, you speaking about Zach Moss just like reminded me of something that I do every once in a while. But for like the Thursday night and the Monday night games, sometimes if I have a guy that I'm going to drop anyway for waivers, just drop him before that game. So like the Thursday night, pick up Zach Moss instead of whatever back end guy that you don't want anymore, like an Odell Beckham. Like if you or if you're putting someone in your IR like Michael Gallup since he's out this week, um, pick up Zach Moss. Hey, if he doesn't do anything week 1, or if none of the other running backs gets hurt, you can just drop him next day. Friday, just drop him. Same thing for Monday night. If you pick up like the backup running back this year, we got Javante and Melvin. Those are guys probably both rostered, or Penny and Walker probably both rostered. But it's like if you pick up like these backups around these matchups, I always do those because then it's like after Monday night, you can drop them, like just on your next waiver cycle. It's stuff like that that you can just, and sometimes on Monday nights, you can pick them up for free because sometimes some leagues waivers don't count during that time period when the games are going on, but some do. Some other candidates that I wanted to talk about was, as I mentioned before, Kenyon Drake, Jeff Wilson on the 49ers. It seems like he's the backup running back to Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell's been dealing with the hamstring issue, so I am very interested in like stashing him on a few of my benches. And then also Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren appears to have the backup role behind Najee Harris. We know Najee touches the ball a lot, and more touches equals more opportunities to get injured. So if he does get injured, Jalen Warren would be like the top waiver pickup next week.
Yeah, the Jeff Wilson pick, that scares me because I just know Shanahan and he might just pull some or he pulls out TDP and just goes with them.
Well,
But
he seems to
I,
really like Jeff Wilson, though, is the
oh
thing.
yeah,
Like
I
past couple years, Jeff Wilson down the stretch is like a almost a league winner. Like he's starting for the 49ers almost back half of every year.
yeah, I mean Jeff Wilson, I'm giving him like an 80% chance in case Mitchell goes down. But that 20% chance did kick in last year with Mitchell, since a lot of people thought Sermon was going to be that guy to kind of come in for Mostert. But I mean, it's all up in the air with that system. But I mean, Jeff Wilson, yeah, I'll take him over TDP, of course.
I gotta say, yeah, I just feel like he's a safer pick. Like, yeah, TDP's like the hot name because he's the new drafted player taking Trey Sermon's spot, stuff like that. But it seems like Jeff Wilson's got the backup role.
Yeah, it scares me, but if you think it's a coin flip, just pick one. It doesn't matter which side it lands on. You're getting a guy that has potential to be a starter, and
I
that's
gotta
what
say,
should
it's
make
all
you
a
happy.
chance. Like, no matter what way you do it, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, nothing's a for sure thing in fantasy.
God, not with Shanahan for sure.
Yeah, definitely not with Shanahan and his running backs. But last thing I want to mention, and I am like PSA, do not start your Thursday night players in your flex spot, please. I've seen so many instances where people are starting their Thursday night players in the flex spot, and then guess what? Sunday, Monday rolls around, and one of your starting receivers or one of your starting running backs is hurt. Oh well, I can't pick up the running back from that same team and plug him in my flex spot because it's already used for my Thursday player. It's just so much easier. It just saves like trouble in case an injury does happen late and you are in a pickle. Like I, that's my biggest advice is just please keep your Thursday night players out of your flex.
I know I have James Conner in one of my leagues in my flex spot right now, and it looks weird. It looks weird, but trust me, Cam Akers starting at running back is gonna be. I mean, especially Cam Akers, right? Where like he could get hurt. I mean, like James Conner, he has previous injury history, so he could get hurt. It's safe to do that, and it's the smart thing to do.
I gotta say, it just makes it a lot better for you in the long run because like it's happened to me before. Like before I started like doing this weekly myself, like it's happened to me where I started someone Thursday night and flex, and I'm just like Monday night comes around, oh guy's out, and I'm just like, well, can't do anything because my flex spot is locked up. All
We want to
right.
get to the matchups for this week.
Yeah, let's move on to the matchups. Now, Theo was able to do a lot of research for this. If you've been following my profile, you would have seen that I have done wedding photos recently. So I've been very preoccupied with that, trying to edit those, get those done. So Theo, thankfully, has got the matchups for us. So Theo, I'll hand it over to you.
Whew, it's gonna be a lot of talking probably on my end, not a lot of breaks. But I'm gonna start off with some of the matchups that I love this week. My first one that I got down is the Raiders wide receivers versus the Chargers. Now, The Chargers, they are not expecting JC Jackson to play in week 1, and which leaves Devontae Adams to be guarded by Asante Samuel Jr. and Hunter Renfrow, who's played a majority of his snaps in the slot. He's probably gonna be going up against Bryce Callahan. Bryce Callahan, he didn't really have a good year last year. I know they signed him to the Chargers this year from the Broncos. He missed a couple games off of injury for Asante Samuel, who's going up against Devontae Adams. You should be starting Devontae Adams anyways. This is mostly for Hunter Renfrow, but Asante Samuel gave up around 500 yards, 3 touchdowns. I feel like now that he's going to be going up against the best wide receiver in the NFL, that could be a bad case for him and trying to get the rust off since this is his sophomore year. Another matchup I really like, if he is healthy and if that hamstring is all right, Elijah Mitchell versus the Bears. The Bears had one of the worst run defenses last season, and it could either be 49ers running backs by committee. I mean, but Elijah Mitchell is him being that number one guy. If he plays with the hamstring injury, he's a start for me. Now, Albert
You don't
O.
think AQM is going to be stopping Elijah Mitchell back there? AQM's on the Bears, so I mean,
No.
Eberflus loves him. Thinks he's going to be the guy.
Well, Eberflus thought a lot of things, and now he's the head coach for the Bears. So, that's he got AQM. He got AQM. So I mean,
Hey, that's all.
it could
That's
be
all he needed.
it could
That's
be
all he needed to ship out Khalil Mack. So I mean, let's be honest, he's the guy. And by the way, Elijah Mitchell has been on the practice field and is expected to play, but he's still questionable. So just FYI.
Yeah. And again, if he's questionable playing by the game time, you start him anyway against that Bears run defense. My next player, Albert O versus the Seahawks. The Seahawks right now have probably one of the worst coverage linebacking groups in the NFL right now. And with Russell Wilson coming in, I don't think he's really going to have a favorite target coming in. I really think that he's just going to throw to anyone that's open. And Albert O in this matchup is going to be very interesting. And I think he could have a special day today. I only got 2 players that I hate this week. First one is Elijah Moore
Don't do
versus
it
the
to me. Don't do it to me. Already Gibbs
Elijah Moore
season. Not Elijah
versus the
Moore.
Ravens. I'm sorry, but I mean, I know Ravens pass coverage defense was not at all good last season, but just overall, the defense could really slow down the Jets' offensive momentum. And I know you said you like Joe Flacco, and Joe Flacco throws a prettier ball than Zach Wilson,
I don't
but
say I like Joe Flacco. I said that
okay.
it could be
I'm
an
sorry, I'm
upgrade
putting
for the.
words in your mouth. I'm putting words in your mouth. That's my bad. That's my
don't
bad.
don't be trying to say this now. Let's
No,
hold.
Luke is Joe Flacco aficionado. He
He's an
absolutely
elite quarterback. Okay, elite.
yes, still to this day. Um, but no, I don't like Elijah Moore versus the Ravens this season. Well, not the season. You know what I mean. This game. See, this is what happens when I'm talking and I'm on a roll. Don't have a lot of breaks. Start messing up. But yeah, going up against Marlon Humphrey, matched up. Uh, didn't do too much research on the Ravens, so I can't really tell you really going in depth on who's going to be covering who. I just put the best versus the best, really, and I don't like it for more. So if you're,
I gotta say, to me, like you mentioned, like yeah, the pass defense wasn't great last year. Well, everyone was pretty much hurt for the Ravens
yeah,
last year, so I feel like that it could be upgraded this year with like some of those guys coming back.
yeah, and the pass rush as well. I mean, with upgrades, like I know they got Zadarius Smith. Wait, no, Zadarius Smith, did he go to the Ravens? But I know they upgraded on their pass rush anyway. It doesn't matter whether if he went back to the Ravens. But that is also going to slow down that offense. And that's why I'm not really that high on Elijah Moore. Um, Another one, my last one for the matchups that I hate is the Dallas running backs versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You think that I mean, if Ezekiel Elliott is in your flex spot, then uh then it's like you got other running backs that are better than him, and there's probably a wide receiver on your bench that could really contest to what Ezekiel Elliott can do against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers run defense is absolutely insane. They're probably going to be passing it a lot more, trying to keep up with the Buccaneers. I mean, you remember last year's game. That was an absolute shootout of a season opener. It was awesome to watch, but that was all wide receivers. That was Cooper, that was CeeDee Lamb, that was Mike Evans. You got all those players going
Antonio
off.
Brown.
Brown, yeah, like you had all those players going off. And I feel like it could really repeat this season. And I'm not really too invested in Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, PPR, I'd put him in the flex, but if you have another wide receiver that's really contesting that, then I'd remove him.
So would you do? Let me ask you this: would you do like a guy like Hollywood Brown or Ezekiel Elliott?
Who do the Cardinals play this week?
Chiefs.
The Chiefs. I'll go Brown. I say get as much. I know you probably don't like that, but it's like it's the Buccaneers' run defense, and you really have to
No, I gotta
think.
say I would agree.
Okay, that's good then.
I gotta
But
say because I was going to say like I know I didn't really do a whole lot of like research for this, but I wanted to say like some of the games that I love like this week that I want to start players in is like the Chiefs Cardinals game. Like I feel like that's might be a shootout.
hmm
And then like Thursday night, like we said, Rams Bills shootout. So I feel like all these games are going to be shootouts, and I want to start players in it.
yeah. Also, reason why I would start Brown is because you drafted him that high because he's going to be the wide receiver one for weeks 1 through 6. So if you're contemplating on whether if I don't know some random person out there is like either a Elliott or Brown, I'm definitely going Brown because you invested that pick in him for those 6 weeks.
Right? Yeah, I gotta say, and he's already had like connection with Kyler Murray in college, so yeah, that's why I really like him.
Now, those love and hate lists, those players that I mentioned are only if you're contemplating on whether starting that player or another player that you have on a bench that I did not mention. It's not necessarily that you sit Ezekiel Elliott or you sit Elijah Moore no matter what. It's only if you're really in that debate. And I want to make that clear so nobody sees like Elijah Moore as their flex and their next best wide receiver is like, I don't know, like Alec Pierce. They just completely forgot to draft another wide receiver. Like, you're going to keep Elijah Moore in. Just be smart. Listen to me. Hopefully I'm right. but yeah, only for debating between players.
I gotta say, like where you're drafting Elijah Moore, I feel like he's probably going to be a flex guy at best or guy on your bench. So like that's not really the biggest problem. But like Zeke, I know Zeke's been draft like is going to be drafted earlier. I know I personally stayed away from him just because I don't like him anymore, like fantasy wise. I just feel like he's past his prime. But I mean, he's still going to get touches. But yeah, like Theo said, if you got better matchups, play him. Sometimes it's a matchup game more than it is the player game.
I
Um,
want to throw out this bold take. Do you
okay.
think Elliott and Pollard will split 50-50 on carries against the Buccaneers?
Just against this game, um, I'd say no.
No?
I'd say
Okay.
more on the Zeke side.
I also want to throw out Austin's bold take. I mean, we're gonna do bold takes, but we're kind of in a time crunch right here. But he said that Baker Mayfield was gonna be a top 10 quarterback this year with the Panthers, and in the week 1 game, he's gonna be what do you say, top
Top
five
like
to
it,
eight?
yeah, 5 to 8 range, I believe. Which I
That's
mean,
bold.
It is bold. Like I gotta say, I know I told Theo, I was like, I really want to hear like his reasoning behind the top 10 quarterback. Just because like he's never hit it in his career, and he's been on pretty talented offenses. Um, but yeah, top 8 this week. It is a revenge game, so I mean, you never know. We've seen crazy things happen in revenge games.
Browns pass coverage though was crazy good last season. It was just absolutely stacked. And if Baker Mayfield can somehow pull it off, I know their offense is not good, but that doesn't mean their defense, that doesn't affect their defense at all. But with targets, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, CMC, he could do it this week. I mean, he could pull off a shocker. I mean, but top 10 is definitely a bold take, and I love that actually. I love that bold take just because of how bold it is. Not because I agree, but just because how bold it is.
Hey, I mean, we asked for hot takes. He gave us a hot take, so
Yeah, I mean,
we
I
can't
ain't
complain.
complaining.
Yeah, we can't complain. But either way, I think that concludes it all for us today. Oh, one more thing that I want to mention. Like we were talking about revenge games. For some reason, this feels like revenge week. Like Baker Mayfield against the Browns, Joe Flacco against the Ravens. Oh, there is another one. Oh, Carson Wentz playing the Jaguars. The, yeah,
Does that
I mean,
God, I
that's the
guess it
reason
is
why
revenge.
he's not on the Colts. I mean, one of the bigger
It,
reasons.
yeah, that fits well with the definition of revenge, I guess, but it just I don't
There's
want to think
another one
about
that,
that anymore.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Oh, and then of course Monday night, Russell Wilson against the Seahawks.
Ooh,
So
that's gonna be fun. Yeah.
revenge game there too. But yeah, football is back, and I couldn't be more excited for it. Thankfully, it's back. Stay tuned to us on Twitter. Our Twitters are over here. I still haven't checked to see if I'm pointing to the left or not, but on the left of your screen is our Twitter @. Go follow us on there. We are going to be posting our waiver pickups early in the week for you guys on our Twitters. And then yeah, we're going to be talking more about start sits on the podcast whenever it comes out on Thursdays. We'll probably post more and more content on Twitter there now that the season is starting. Just like stuff to keep your eyes out for, just like breaking news, like when players get hurt, stuff like that. So keep an eye out on there. But yeah, Theo, you got anything else for us tonight?
No, good luck. I guess the only thing I gotta say is good
Mhm.
luck in your first week.
Yeah, hopefully Zeke does nothing so that way you can not have to yell
I
at
can
Theo.
I can just rub it in the face of the fantasy community or whoever watches this. I guess that doubts me. Don't doubt me.
But yeah, that's going to be all for us today. Until next week. Yeah, I just can't wait for football to be actually on TV. So let's go. Week 1, we're here. We're starting lineups. We're in this. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. But yeah, we'll see you guys.
See you.